Hello，你好，Welcome back，欢迎回来to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger on November 22nd, 2023. Happy early Thanksgiving to our United States viewers and friends. Hopefully everybody have a good Thanksgiving, and for the rest of us, hopefully we don't end up spending too much money on this Black Friday sale, Cyber Monday sale, because there's so much going on, but there's so little money to go around. Speaking of spending money, if you are looking for some quirky, nice retro gifts for the upcoming holiday to give to family and friends, check out our sponsor at the message below.
Welcome to my parlor. Welcome, traveler, to the Hidden Corner Finds. I am Joanne, and this is my humble store. Pull up a chair, stay a while, make yourself at home. What? Oh, you want to know what I'm selling? Everything and anything. In short, I have a passion for people. Ugh, why did it just bleep me? All I said was, I have a passion for picking, I said. Yeesh. You can't say anything on YouTube these days without this censorship. Anyways, as I was saying, I have a passion for picking. For me, there is nothing more satisfying than finding a unique and forgotten item and uniting it with someone who will really appreciate it for years to come. Whether it's a soapstone carving, an old book, or simply a mug to make you laugh, I try and find something for everyone. My goal is to make you a confident buyer. Older items often have a lifetime of stories to tell. I strive to describe the good as well as the bumps and bruises they've experienced along the way. It's important that the pictures reflect what you will receive. To that end, I always encourage questions and will do my best to respond as quick as possible. Appreciate you stopping by the store. If you can't find what you're looking for, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm always looking for new ideas and will keep an eye out for your item in my travel. Honey, what the happened to my action figure collection? Whoops, gotta go. Bye.
So I think a lot of people, even those are not into Chinese culture or not into studying about Chinese history, a lot of people know about Confucius. Uh, it seemed to be one of the few big chunks of Chinese history, Chinese folklore that kind of resonated with cultures around the world. The idea of that there was a Chinese version of Buddha or Jesus, an educator, a person of education, a scholarly person walking around trying to teach people to be good. Yeah, it's very romantic, very heartwarming to think that 2,500 or so years ago, there was a guy who was doing that, who didn't try to uh, be rich or um, working for the government or stuff like that. But that wasn't really intentional. I mean, Confucius mostly did all that traveling around because he was waiting for someone to ask him to be their minister. He was waiting to get hired. It's not like he said, "I don't want to be a royal minister. I just want to teach people." No, he didn't. He didn't do that on purpose. It just happened that no one wanted him, which is yeah, really really sad. But anyway, that's a little bit uh, beside the point. Today I'm going to take you through some of the interesting little factoids about Confucius that probably you have never heard before, or some of them you might have heard someone mention them before, but I imagine most of these would be uh, something that quite new to most of you, and hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll have gained a new understanding of who Confucius really was. I mean, first off, a lot of you probably have heard this one. Confucius was not his name. I mean, that's logical, right? I mean, why would a Chinese guy have a name like Confucius? Uh, Confucius is more like a name that white people put on him, so they can pronounce his name easier. To Chinese people, he is known as Kongzi, Kongzi, uh, or Kong Lao Fu Zi. Kong Lao Fu Zi or Kongzi. Kongzi is like the simpler form. Kong is his first name, and Zi basically actually means someone of great import, like a saint or someone who is very noble. Most of the very popular, very famous scholars throughout Chinese history had a 子 added to their family name. So 孟子, 孔子, 老子, etc., etc. So uh, that's what that is. So 孔子, or we call him 孔老夫子. Uh, we add 老夫 means old man, wise man. So 孔老夫子 is like Kong, the wise man. So nothing even remotely sounding like Confucius. That's not a name that Chinese people know him by. So let's start. That one, Confucius' real name. That one I give it to you more as a bonus. That wasn't one of the points, but uh, actually, Kongzi is not even his real like full name because, like I said, Kong is his family name. Zhi is like saint or a mister or some master, something like that. So Kongzi is like Master Kong. His real name is Kong Qiu. Kong Qiu. Qiu is hilltop. And we're going to come back to that one in a little bit. That's his real name, Kong Qiu. He has a middle name or nickname in well, when I talk about Chinese naming convention a while ago, I talked about a lot of people back then had a name that was given to them at birth, and then a name that they get when they become famous. So like almost like a second name. It's called 字. Okay, so Kong Qiu, his 字 was 仲尼. So when you want to introduce him, it's like his full introduction would be 孔丘 zhi zhongni. So 孔丘 is his given name, and then 仲尼 is a name that he gained later when he became an adult. So, what are some of the interesting little facts that a lot of people don't know about Confucius or Kongzi? Number one, Kongzi was very, very probably a highly skilled warrior. Let's set aside any other thing about Confucius. Most people think of Confucius as this kind, scholarly man, but most people do not think about Confucius as a warrior. So I probably just kind of blew your mind there. But historically, Confucius's dad uh, was a great military general, leader that led soldiers onto many, many battlefields during a time of chaos. Uh, when Confucius was born, this was around the time before the Qing dynasty, before the Qing dynasty, so about 2,500 years ago. This time was very chaotic in Chinese history because China was fragmented into like 16 different small states, warring kingdoms and states. So Confucius's dad was one of these soldiers that led men into wars for their state. So he was a great military leader. So, needless to say, Confucius would have grew up learning from, it's literally learning from the best. In Confucius's biographies, several of the historical accounts, we can see that not only that Confucius's students, he had some students that traveled with him. They were great martial artists and great soldiers, like Zilu, for example. We'll talk about Zilu more in today's episode as well. Zilu is like the best martial artist, best warrior who followed Confucius around, learning from him. So historically, it's said that whenever Zilu and the other student have archery contest or fencing swordsmanship contest, Kongzi sometimes would take part in it. And whenever Confucius pick up a bow and quiver of arrows, he would have so many townsfolk coming to watch him do archery. That's how amazing he was as an archer. So Confucius didn't just know his books; he knew his martial art. He always carried a sword around with him, and he knew his archery very, very well. One of Confucius's lesser known quotes, but very humorous, said something like, I maximized my scholarship because I want to be able to reason with you. I also maximized my martial prowess, so you have no choice but to let me reason with you. Yeah. Okay. Okay, teacher. You got us right there. Number two. Uh, Not only was Confucius probably a great warrior, he was probably uh, the world's first strong man, Mr. Universe. Yeah. Again, a lot of people's idea of Confucius is this uh this scholarly old man who got long beard, and I mean, someone use your imagination. If I just ask you what do you think Confucius looked like, you probably think like some dignified looking, probably a little bit pudgy or skinny, whatever. But you wouldn't associate Confucius with, well, Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example. But, and this is not something I'm making up, this is like historical fact. We go by Confucius's uh, biography, written not by him, but by other scholars throughout Chinese history. We can glimpse what kind of a guy, what kind of stature Confucius actually had. Uh, for instance, in his biography, Confucius was said to stand 9 foot 5 inches tall. Now, obviously, that's not possible, and that's not going by today's standard. So we can uh, guess that it was either going by the standard of the Qing dynasty or the standard of the Han dynasty, because these measurements kind of change uh, between dynasties. Like a foot in Qing Dynasty didn't measure the same as a foot in Han Dynasty. Okay, so we like if we take a guess as to these measurements were probably using the Qing Dynasty or Han Dynasty measurement, then we can guess that Confucius stand anywhere between 6'2" and 6'9". Right. Okay. So even if he's just 6'2", that's still one big Chinaman right there. Especially comparing to people back then, he would be a giant. And if he was 6'9", woo. So some people may say, okay, fine. So he was tall. That doesn't mean that he's big. There are a lot of tall people that are skinny, uh, but that's not the end of the story, right? Um, Going back to Confucius' dad, who we already established, Confucius' dad was a very great warrior and military leader. One of Confucius' father's most famous achievement was this. One time when Daddy Confucius, I'm just going to use that, call him Daddy Confucius, uh, rather than keep saying Confucius' dad or stuff like that. Okay, so one day, Daddy Confucius led his men to invade a town, and when they went into the town to pillage, he suddenly realized that they fell into a trap. They were ambushed. That the people in that town already were ready for them, and they were going to be slaughtered if they didn't retreat. So he quickly sounded a retreat, and but just as him and his men were running out of the town, getting onto their horses and trying to get out of the town, the people of the town let the porculus porculus down, like you know that grated barred thing that drop down at the city gate so you can't go in or go out. I think that's called a porculus. Um, or portcullis. I never really know how to properly pronounce that one. Let's just go with portcullis. So the town folks dropped the portcullis down to prevent uh, Daddy Confucius and his men from leaving, so they can slaughter them all. And Daddy Confucius rushed forward and he held the portcullis up over his head so his men could get out, and then he himself got out after that. Like, this sounds so incredibly ridiculous because I don't know how many of you have seen one of those portcullis in real. Those things weigh a lot. Like, we are talking about hundreds and hundreds of pounds. Uh, let's say even back then, okay, maybe it wasn't that heavy. Maybe it wasn't like steel and iron. It would still be big logs and wood, and it would weigh several hundred pounds to say the very least. Probably a lot more. So Daddy Confucius single-handedly held that thing long enough for his men to get out, and then he himself got out without getting squashed. So that's Daddy Confucius. That's how strong he was. And in more than one historical account, it has been written that Confucius could do the same thing as well. Confucius could pick up a portcullis and lift it overhead just as easily as his dad did. More so than that, in one historical text, a scholar has described Confucius as being stronger than Meng Ban. Who is Meng Ban? Meng Ban is legendary, strong, like strong god. It's not a real person. Meng Ban is like Chinese folklore, kind of like Pangu. Meng Ban is a giant, strong man uh, who it was said that Meng Ban was so strong that he could hold an ox down with one hand and then rip the horn off the ox's head with the other hand. So it was described that Confucius was more tough, stronger, scarier than Meng Ban. So yeah, use your own imagination. So combining point one and point two, here is a guy who was tall, anywhere between 6'2" and 6'9", probably built like a brick shit house, who could pick up a portcullis like it's nothing, and he knew how to fight. He knew archery and swordsmanship. So yeah, have I changed your mind about how you view Confucius yet? Don't go anywhere. We have got more to come. Number three, Confucius was probably ugly as sin. I know. A lot of modern depiction you see of Confucius like to depict him as this noble-looking, dignified-looking old guy, and got a like a very noble, wise-looking face. But if you ever go to China and Taiwan and look at historical text and textbooks depiction of Confucius, you will see a completely different visage. You'll see a guy who if we want to be nice, we can say who look very fearsome. If we want to be blunt, You can say this guy had got a face that only his mother would love. First, let's look at his head. Right? I talked about Confucius's real name is Kong Qiu. Qiu means hillock or hilltop. Why did he called Kong Hilltop? Because Con- uh, 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 Confucius's head, the shape of his skull, was very deformed. The middle of the top of his head is uh, concave, like it's sunken in, and then the side of his head is all lumpy and higher than the middle of his head. So he has a lumpy, weird, deformed-looking skull to begin with. Also, one of the earliest biography of Confucius described his face as 面如重漆. 面如重漆means his face is like a qi. What's a qi, you might ask? Well, a qi is a legendary monster used to to scare away evil spirit. Imagine a Chinese version of a gargoyle. So, okay, here's a guy with a deformed looking head with a face like a gargoyle. So, if you ever look at how Confucius is traditionally depicted in Chinese literature, he is drawn with a really leathery, wrinkly face with buck teeth and mean looking eyes and a lumpy head. And that's probably more close to what Confucius actually looked like and not this noble, wise teacher that is depicted in modern literatures. All right, so now I think I've already pretty much ruined Confucius's image in your head. He went from this wise old teacher to this great big 6'2" to 6'9" giant with bulgy muscles and sword and a bow and arrow and with a face like a gargoyle. Okay, we got more to come. Number four, Confucius was nowhere as merciful as Jesus Christ or Buddha. Okay, a lot of people, especially white people, sorry guys, but especially white people, when you guys teach about Confucius, you like to talk about mercy and kindness and humanity, which are all qualities that Confucius had preached. That is not wrong, but that is not all that he preached. Right? Not rather than turning the other cheek, like Jesus Christ said, when you someone slap your face, you're supposed to turn the other cheek. Confucius did not follow that kind of thinking. One time, when Confucius was teaching, one of his students asked him, he said, "Teacher, when someone mistreat us, when someone is mean to us, are we supposed to be merciful because that's the gentlemanly thing to do?" And Confucius, without even a pause, responded, "No, you idiot." Well, okay, he didn't say you idiot, but basically that he said it in that kind of tone. "No, you idiot. When someone mistreat you, you treat them like how they treat you. You are kind and merciful to people who are nice to you. Otherwise, if you treat everybody equally nice, then you're not being fair to the people who are nice to you. If people mistreat you, you treat them like the way they treat you. If people are nice to you, you treat them like the way they treat you. That is that simple." So you see, turning the other cheek, forgiveness was not really big on Confucius's agenda. And there's another instance that also is historically notated, and it can show us that Confucius definitely wasn't really a big uh, proponent, big promoter of being merciful blindly. Uh, Another time when Confucius was holding his classes, one of his students put up his hand and he said, "Teacher, we always want to be merciful and gentlemanly, but how should a gentleman act if someone murdered our family member? If our family member is murdered, what's the proper behavior? And Confucius looked at the whole class and he said, "This is what you do." Okay, again, I'm not making this up. This is that he actually did say this. He said, "This is what you do. When someone murdered your family member, you stop worrying about your books. You stop worrying about being a gentleman. You quit your job. You walk around with your sword every day. You sleep with your sword by your side. And anytime you run into the person who did your family wrong, you murder them on the spot." That's what you do. Because if you do not even avenge your family, then you are not considered worthy to be even a human being, never mind a gentleman. Yeah, so we can see that Confucius definitely got some kind of avenger, avenging angel, or punisher kind of mentality going on. Further, adding onto his fearsome warrior-like image. Number five, Confucius definitely had a sense of humor. We have established today that Confucius was this big, mean-looking, muscular, strong as heck warrior kind of guy. And I don't want us to go away from this episode thinking that Confucius was mean and scary and hard to get along with, because a lot of people do tend to depict him as this boring, stubborn, strict and square, stick in the mud kind of teacher. But that's really far from the truth. If we look at several biographies, not just of Confucius, but of his students, many of these biographies would show us that Confucius actually, maybe even if you can't say that he was goofy sometimes, he definitely had a sense of humor. For example, take this exchange between Confucius and his student Zilu. One time, Zilu, we mentioned him a few minutes ago as the best warrior who followed Confucius around. He's one of Confucius's favorite students. Zilu and Confucius had the following exchange. When they were on the road and Confucius was feeling kind of dejected that no one wanted to follow his teaching, Confucius said, "Hey, maybe I should just quit traveling around and try to teach people. Maybe I should just go make a ship and go travel and sail the ocean and go away." And then he looked at all his students and he said, "I wonder which one of you would come with me if I decide to sail away and never be seen again. I think only Zulu would be following me. I think I would like Zulu to come with me." And Zulu jumped up and he waved his hand Teacher, yes, yes, teacher, I'll go with you. Let me go. You want a boat? I'll go make you a boat. I'll go make you a boat." Like Zulu was like super eager, like this super eager puppy, jumping up and down and like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, I'm teacher's favorite. He's going to take me to go sail the ocean." Confucius looked at him and kind of like shook his head, and Confucius said, "Of all my students, Zelu is the best warrior. He's even greater than me when it comes to martial art. But man, I really worry about his intellect. Zelu, sit down. I was joking. Okay, we don't need a boat. We don't want a boat right now. Sit down." Yeah, so this was one of the more humorous exchange that had been recorded in historical text between Zelu and Confucius. Another exchange, also taken from the biography of one of Confucius's students, says that one time Confucius and his students, when they were going through one of the kingdoms, one of the larger towns, and they got separated and they couldn't find Confucius, and Confucius couldn't find his students, and it took hours, and finally one of the students found Confucius by the west gate. And when they found each other, they were so happy. And the Confucius asked his student, "How did you find me? How did you know to look here at the west gate?" And his student kind of looked a bit nervous And he said, well, I was asking all over the place if anyone seen my teacher, who is tall and strong and very dignified, and finally someone told me, well, there is some weird-looking guy standing by the west gate. He looked old, depressed, and sad. He looked like a whipped dog. Maybe that's your teacher? And the student, after saying that, he kept his eyes down. He thought Confucius was going to have have a fit, going to lose his shit because someone described him as a weird-looking guy and looked like a whipped dog. But to his surprise, Confucius put his hand up to his face and looked at his dirty clothes, looked at his dirty hands, and he said, seriously? They said I look like a whipped dog? Oh, that's really good because I feel like a whipped dog. And he laughed. He laughed very loud and very long, like it was the funniest thing he ever heard. So, yeah, Confucius definitely had a sense of humor. He wasn't this stick in the mud, humorless old teacher that a lot of people make him out to be. So I hope that today's episode was entertaining, and I hope that this episode gave you some new insight into one of the greatest teacher, not only in Chinese history but in human history. Thank you for checking out today's Wisdom Wednesday. I'll be back again tomorrow. For now, 谢谢 and 再见.